Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper and TireRack.com. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, Jessica Ray.
Thank you, Alec Webb, and welcome everyone to MotorWeek podcast number 320. I'm your host today. I'm Jessica Ray, but I'm not alone. Joining me are our FYI reporter, Stephanie Hart.
Hi, everyone.
Our road test producer, Kyle Scanlon.
What's going on?
And our writer, Alex Kellum.
Howdy.
Now, today we're going to start off our podcast talking about a few stories that Stephanie has been working on, including a fascinating TV and movie car exhibit at the Petersen Automotive Museum. Plus, we're also going to dive into what we should know about some automotive financing. Then we're going to move on to Mazda's newest model, the CX-70, and how it's actually more familiar than you think. And our lightning round addresses Ford discontinuing one of their driver assistance features, while we finish off the podcast with Honda's first serious all-electric entry, the Prologue, that they built with a little bit of help. But before we get into it, did you know that you can watch MotorWeek and other PBS programming anytime, anywhere with the free PBS app? Download the app on your smart TV and you'll never miss a mile of MotorWeek. Now, the Petersen Automotive Museum in Los Angeles always has some of the coolest and most exclusive automotive-related exhibits that one can imagine. And being right near Hollywood, it's only fitting that they would have some of the most famous television and movie cars on display. Stephanie, you recently were able to explore the exhibit, Hollywood Cars Modified for the Movies. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it was really exciting. Some of the most famous movie cars were on display there. Really cool cars. I got to see the 1981 DeLorean, which was driven in all of the Back to the Future movies. So many people wanted to pose in front of the car and get pictures, so that was really neat. It was awesome to see the flux capacitor up close and personal. I peeked in there and saw it, so that was really, really cool. And these cars serve as important plot devices for movies, and the modifications made to them make them really compelling on the big screen. So this is a very important exhibit, not to mention tons of fun to look around there. I also got to sit in the Jaguar XKR from Die Another Day. I love that car. So many cool modifications to that car. So behind the driver's seat is a mounted gun.
Typical Bond fashion, right?
Oh, yeah. Missiles fire out of the grill. There are rocket launchers on the door. Yeah. So 2002's Die Another Day is just an amazing movie, and it was so cool to see the car there. So that was also a big favorite. And it was rebuilt on a shortened Ford Explorer four-wheel drive chassis.
Yeah, that's right.
So it could handle on the ice during that really dramatic chase scene in the movie that you may remember.
I mean, yeah, that it kind of brings up a good point of like why it's, this exhibit is kind of a little bit different than just like, all right, this car was in a movie, but these are specifically modified so that they can do what they need to do in movies. And not just that, but also stylistically, right? Graphics that are on cars, stuff like that.
Yeah, and we also saw the 1976 Ford Grand Torino there, driven in Starsky and Hutch. Right. That series ran from 1975 to 1979. It has mag wheels, oversized tires. It's painted that really gorgeous red color with that white stripe. So that was a really striking vehicle. Also, Herbie the Love Bug was there.
Of course, Herbie.
From the 2005 movie Herbie Fully Loaded. And actually 30 different vehicles were used in production with different looks to suit each scene. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty amazing to think about, wrap your head around that.
Different versions with like a banged up fender or something like that. It was supposed to happen during the race.
That's really pretty incredible too, because that's an old vehicle. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a modern movie, that was early 2000s, but that's an older vehicle. So to have 30 versions of a 1966 Volkswagen Beetle, I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the good news is the display is going to be on exhibit until January 2025. So there's time to see it. Plenty of time. Yeah. It really is a must-see movie. It sort of makes you smile when you see these cars from the yesteryear, and it just brings back a lot of great memories. You sort of feel all warm and fuzzy inside when you see the vehicles. So a lot of people had a great time. Also, my FYI just aired, but it is on our MotorWeek YouTube channel and also our MotorWeek website right now, so people can catch it.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Absolutely.
And while you're there, you also did a piece on the Bond in Motion a couple years ago.
Yes.
So if you check out the one she just did on the Petersen, this Bond in Motion was also at the Petersen, and it's an awesome segment. Really cool cars. So.
I was going to say,
you.
yeah, it
Check
wasn't
it out.
your first time being at the Petersen. So
Yeah, this was my third time.
Yeah.
So since 2018, I've been there 3 times for FYI segments. So I'm really lucky.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous museum. So much information, really well done. All the exhibits are amazing.
So I have to ask, because it's my favorite movie car, was Eleanor from Gone in 60 Seconds there?
Yeah.
The Mustang?
Yeah.
Because that is hands
Yeah,
down
it
my
was.
favorite movie car ever.
Yeah, it was.
I'd love to
Absolutely.
see
Yeah,
that
it's
in person.
sitting down there. You know what's really interesting too, one last thing we'll say about it is that, these aren't just traditional or older movie cars, right? From movies from decades ago. These are more very recent movies within the last, within the 21st century. So I think that's really interesting because they also have the Honda S2000 from Too Fast, Too Furious, the pink one, not the orange one, but the pink one,
Yeah.
which is
That's the
still,
better one.
which is still really cool. So, so definitely very, very cool stuff from the Petersen. Now we're going to shift gears a little bit to a little bit more consumer reporting, automotive financing.
Yes, I'm working on an automotive financing piece right now, and that's scheduled to air March 22nd through March 28th on MotorWeek. I'm talking about Auto Finance 101, and I interviewed Bankrate's senior economic analyst, Mark Hamrick, and he shed some light on the current economic situation. As you all know, affording a new car these days comes with a hefty price tag.
Oh, it does.
Right now, new car payments are averaging about $700 to $1,000 a month. It's astronomical.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to think. And then you add in the high interest rates, and it's difficult for so many people to afford a new car. So as far as my story, it's designed to give people auto financing tips. So to start off, you really need a solid strategy in order to secure a good car loan. Start with a strategy. It starts with doing your homework. Then you'll want to create a budget. You'll want to have savings for a down payment, and you'll want to know your credit score. Once you've checked off all of those boxes, then you're ready to shop around. And shop around is the key. You need to shop around. Shop around for a good auto loan.
And different dealerships. I mean, that's kind of a key. Different dealerships can give you different loan rates, or depending upon what they have on their lot, what's the incentives to get
and how good
to
their
get rid of.
sales have been.
Yeah.
It might be pushed to actually sell some cars versus another dealership who's doing really well, who doesn't have to give the other people a better interest rate in order to get the car out the door, something like that.
Yeah, you're going to want to contact credit unions and banks. Start with those first. If you can, get pre-approved. Then you'll want to contact a dealership. So again, you'll want to shop around for the best rates. And ideally get pre-approved, because that's going to give you more leverage when you go to buy a car. So I have tons of other tips for everyone, and that is going to be in my FYI segment, Auto Financing 101, and that is airing March 22nd through March 28th on MotorWeek.
I'm curious, did they talk anything about the state of interest rates at this point? Whether we're going to see maybe a downshift in them eventually, or no?
Well, Bankrate believes that the financial forecast may be on an upswing, but we are going to have a lot of new information coming out closer to spring, to the air date. So there's going to be tons of great resources in that piece. And I hope it really helps people when they go to buy a car.
Right. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Like we said before, you can find her recent story on the Petersen Museum's Hollywood Customs Modified for the Movies exhibit on our website under the Features tab, which you can also find her other stories on the Petersen's different exhibits there as well. And stay tuned for her full story on Auto Finance 101, which will air at the end of March on MotorWeek. Now, moving on, the Mazda brand has been adding new models to their lineup in the last few years, including the compact CX-50 and then the mid-size CX-90, and they're at it again with the all-new Mazda CX-70. The CX-70 will slot between them for buyers who need more room than the CX-50 provides, but don't need the 3 rows of a CX-90. Alex, you got to recently see the unveiled CX-70 in person. Can you tell us a little bit about this tweener model?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is kind of like Mazda's return to form with the 2-row midsize SUV, which when I went there and I was reading the press materials, I was like, what? No, they've got other ones. They got other ones. And then I would go on the website, look through the lineup, like, yeah, no, those are, as you said, CX-50's a compact, and CX-5 and all that. CX-30's a sub. So this is a mid-size 2-row SUV. And when we say it's very much like the CX-90, it very much is. It is, in terms of dimensions, it is identical. I just looked at the spec sheet this morning to confirm it. Yeah. Okay. So the CX-90, when we talked about that, that is, by the way, the 3-row. It's their new flagship utility. So Mazda's really trying to poise themselves to be more of a premium brand than ever, and the CX-90 really exemplifies that with more premium touches inside and everything like that. The CX-90, just going to the dimensions real quick, 200 inches long, or 201 if you want to split hairs, on a 123-inch wheelbase.
It's pretty long. It's pretty long.
Yeah, it's a long boy, and the CX-70 is identical. It is the same.
What's different, Alex?
Not a whole lot, but I'll get to that. It is also built on Mazda's large platform, and you would think then powertrains may be the same. Well, they're not just kind of the same. They are exactly the same.
Yeah, wow.
So if you remember the CX-90 review, this is going to sound very familiar. So you have a mild hybrid offering, which can be in 2 different configurations, which I'll get to, and then a plug-in hybrid system as well. Sounds very familiar. So that turbo, that's kind of like the starting point there. It's a 3.3-liter inline-6. It's turbocharged, of course, hence the name. And it's paired up with a 48-volt mild hybrid system. So it is still, got a hybrid system in there, but it's not the plug-in. So you're looking at 280 horsepower, give or take. The Turbo S, basically the same exact powertrain setup, so the inline 6 and the mild hybrid, but it's cranked up to 340 HP. And last, you have the plug-in hybrid, which is a 2.5-liter 4-banger under the hood with a 68-kilowatt electric motor. You're looking at a total of 320 or 323 horsepower, so kind of in the ballpark there as well. Not really sure on the range of the battery. I don't think they've put that out yet. It's a little early to know all that kind of stuff.
And we'll have to, it might differ a little bit from the larger CX-90 for a couple of reasons.
Right, the 90, that battery range, just so you know, is 25 miles on a full charge. So 70 will probably be around there, but not, probably not exact. That's a 8-speed automatic, by the way, with standard all-wheel drive. Mazda's been doing a lot of standard all-wheel drive, and I think that's a big advantage to them. So when we start talking about the styling, it's got a few more blacked-out accents, a little bit more rugged looking, kind of takes some of that from the CX-50.
Yeah.
But it still mixes in plenty of that premium kind of look from the CX-90. So it really is like an in-betweener in terms of style. I think it leans more towards the 90 because they want to have that, that premium look. Of course, colors, zircon sand, and everyone's favorite Soul Red is available. Everyone loves that color, and I'm very glad.
Mazda does have a great red.
They have a really excellent red.
So far, I've pretty much described a CX-90.
Yeah.
And that's that. And a lot of people were saying it's a CX-90 without the 3rd row, and that is the primary difference here. That 3rd row has just been completely axed. It's not like fold downs. It's nothing like that. It is a flat load floor.
So we have to think of it that it now kind of competes, something like this competes with like the Atlas Cross Sport.
Sure.
And what else? The Honda Passport. These larger utilities that could have fit a 3rd row, but they decided to not have them in because it's for buyers who don't want a 3rd row and want all of that space.
Right.
Because this also does have some storage under the cargo area too.
So they didn't just say, all right, put a flat floor in there and be done with it. They put a little sub trunk underneath. So there's all these different little storage compartments and everything. So if you have pickleball gear or whatever active people with hobbies do, you can put it underneath of there, which is really nice. They also have hooks in there for bags. This is built, I'm going to pull from the marketing lingo here. Mazda claims this is for the active and engaged customer base. Their next quote is, the CX-70 customer sees their vehicle as a catalyst towards engaging with their hobbies and passions. So if you're more exciting than me and actually have hobbies and passions, yeah, that sub trunk, the hooks for the bags and everything, it's a very like practical use of that space. But I understand why it is a little easy to say, oh, they just took a 90 and cut out the third row. I get where people are coming from there. The interior is very premium. The ones I saw were Canadian spec, and they did say there's going to be a little bit of a difference with like trim pieces, with the availability of tech, so like the screens and everything like that. But here in the U.S., it seems like we're going to get a standard 12.3-inch infotainment screen that's got smartphone projection on it, and then standard is a 7-inch TFT display for the gauges, but you still have like traditional gauges in there that can on higher trims go to a 12.3-inch driver's display, I believe. So, and I don't know where that starts in the lineup. It's probably not super high up. It's probably around
and I
the
don't know
middle.
that they released even like what trims we're going to get for this. I don't think
they actually just did.
Oh, they literally
I
just
think
did.
it's 9 different configurations when you're looking at all the powertrains. Yeah,
I
it's a
really
ton.
liked the blacked out exterior trim. I'm a big fan of that. I thought that looked really sharp.
And
It
that
looks real good.
That is, it makes a lot of sense for them to do something like that too, because of seeing that the 90 being the more premium option, and this kind of being not to say less premium, but more like adventure-y option, because that's what those buyers want. They want that like blacked out, little more rugged look.
And another thing that I really liked is they did a Napa leather red-ish color. It's red, basically. I forget what the exact color. Yeah. It's red Napa leather, which they haven't really done. It's inspired by the MX-5 100th anniversary edition model, which for those that don't know, it does not celebrate 100 years of MX-5. The Miata was not made the year Prohibition started. It is celebrating 100 years of Mazda. But it's a beautiful red Napa leather. I mean, it looks great, especially with like the black accents.
That would be really nice.
It's beautiful. So it's a very good-looking vehicle. Pricing, I believe, was just announced this morning at the time of us recording this.
I think it's around like 45,000.
Starts at, I believe, 41.8.
41.
So a little bit less than that. That is for the Turbo Preferred. That's like your first, entry level. I believe the Turbo S starts a bit higher, closer to 50, and then the PHEV starts around there as well. And those prices do kind of mimic CX-90 as well.
Okay. Wow.
One
All
question
right.
I have, because you were talking about hobbies. So one of my big
Yikes.
hobbies is golf.
Okay.
Now, seeing the size of the CX-90 and taking that third row completely out, like you said, would you say you could fit maybe 3 or 4 golf bags in the back of there to like bring me and all of my buddies to the golf course on a day? Because that is something that I worry about if I were to buy an SUV, that I could fit all that gear for me and my friends to hit the course for a day.
You would think I would know this because I used to work at a golf driving range, and I used to be in the golf club in 5th grade, so I should be adept at this. I'm gonna. Hey, we took it pretty serious.
Okay.
I would absolutely say maybe. And what I mean by that is
solid maybe.
Just looking at, eyeballing it, I think you could. I don't think you'd have a single issue with it, but I do not have the actual trunk dimensions here.
I know.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
unprepared.
Just from eyeballing it real quick.
I would say eyeballing it, you're fine.
All right.
But really, I mean, vehicles like this, you might be wondering, like, why would you do this? Why would you just take the same car, take the third row out? And it's literally because there are people who are downsizing, like they would do a house, and they don't need all of that space. And there is still usable space. I mean, even though, granted, third rows can all fold flat now for the most part, not everyone, but almost everyone, there's still space that's being taken up, cubic feet. So definitely an interesting product from Mazda.
I mean, if you're dual income, no kids, and you like to rescue dogs and stuff, and those are your
right.
kids,
Yeah, exactly.
It's great to have all that room.
those.
I was gonna say, you got tons of them.
I got 3 dogs and I live alone, man. Those are the only
CX-70 might
kids
be
I
in your
got.
future. Yeah, can't wait to drive it.
So I got to make sure to bring Kyle back onto this podcast, because I imagine he will be taking the CX-70 when we have it in for full testing to do a real test on
See if we
it.
can put 4 golf bags in the back. All right, that's for sure.
Great. Well, thanks, everybody. Now, make sure you stick around, because we're going to talk about Honda's all-new Prologue and who they paired up to create it a little further down on the show. But first, I want to thank the sponsors of this podcast and of the show MotorWeek, Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper, and TireRack.com. We know our viewers and listeners appreciate your dedication to MotorWeek. Now it's time for our lightning round. Our panelists have 30 seconds to give their take on a trending automotive topic. I've got my bell, my handy dandy bell right here, and my timer also. So we often talk about when automakers put new driver assistance features into their vehicles, but today Ford is actually taking a feature out. They recently announced they'll be discontinuing their active park assist, which allows the vehicle to parallel park itself, because they found very few of their customers were actually using it. You've probably seen a commercial where somebody was using this active park assist. Now, removing this feature is set to save the brand about $2 billion in the long term. What do you think this says about the future of some of our driver assistance technologies?
Hang on, I'm not dumb. I'm just panicking. I guess I'll start.
It's kind of an existential question, isn't it?
A little bit. I mean, I see both sides of it. I wonder if this is going to be one of those instances where in 20 years we'll be saying, wow, Ford was really ahead of the time, like with that kind of feature, because now everybody does it. Or is it something that people just don't want to use because they figured in the time that I can set it to park it, I could just do it myself. Right. But I will say, like, again, using the Blue Oval as an example here, when they got rid of all their cars here in the United States, the Focus, the Fiesta, the Fusion, a lot of people were like, why? And I can't answer that question. I should be able to because I'm a journalist, but I can't. But it's a cost saving thing. Ultimately they deem that to be the cost saving measure there. So whether that's worked out for them or not, I can't really say. I will say I'm jealous of the Focus that they got in like Europe.
Oh, definitely.
It's really cool.
Definitely jealous of that.
But if they think this is the right move, I mean, sure, go for it. $2 billion's a lot.
All right.
That was probably more than 30.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
That was generous.
Kyle, any thoughts?
I mean, as a person who actively distrusts a lot of technology, I'm kind of one of those people that seems like if I show up around computers or fancy electronics, they just seem to not work when I'm around. So I just kind of steer clear of most of them. But I think, if it's going to save them $2 billion in the long term, I think it's a smart move. If they're looking at the numbers and they're realizing next to nobody's using this, then why have the infrastructure? Why have the R&D on it? Why spend the money on it? They can use that towards safety features, coming up with a whole new, model that they'll come out with in the U.S. or internationally, wherever. They can put that money anywhere because it's their money. But I mean, I don't know what this says, like where it's going with assist features. Some assist features I do love having on vehicles. Other ones, when I get in the cars that we have here at MotorWeek, I turn half of them off the second I get into the car, because to me, they're just an annoyance. Now, for people who have grown up driving with these assist features, that could be a whole different thing. Now, this kind of goes in line with Stephanie's bit about auto financing. The younger generation of people who might really want to have these features in the cars and trust them don't make the money to buy them.
Yeah.
So then you're looking at people in their 40s and 50s who have the money to buy these vehicles, and they grew up driving without these assist features, and therefore, possibly like me, inherently don't trust them, because I trust myself more than I trust a computer, aside from hard math.
Well, you make a really good point, because, I mean, the active park assist is not like it's on a base model Ford. These are typically on like higher trim levels that are more expensive, and even
limiteds and
and they're not on every vehicle as well. Like you can get it on the F-150, I believe you can get it on the Mach-E, but it's not on like every single vehicle too. Well, thanks, Kyle.
Nice, Kyle. That was 30 seconds on the nose.
Yeah. There we go. Stephanie, you have any thoughts?
Well, I tried out the active park assistance a few years ago, probably like 6 years ago at IIHS. And I will say, I'm so sorry, I don't remember the vehicle I was in, but as for the feature and testing it out, it was not very accurate. So I wonder if that's why it's not as popular. I don't know. I haven't driven one since. I haven't used that feature since. But if customers aren't using it, maybe it's because they're not accurate. I don't know, though.
No, that makes
I'm not
sense.
sure.
Well, so I'll preface saying that the active park assist has been in Ford's been making it specifically for about, I think, 10 years now. It's been in their vehicles. So I imagine like in the past probably 10 years it has gotten better. Like I imagine that the first few was probably not great, and then as time went on, as we've seen, like even lane keep assists, like I feel like most lane keep assist features that we experience in cars now are pretty good, at least much better than they were like 4 or 5 years ago, not bouncing you around anymore. But that is a good point. Like maybe if they had that and they were like, well, I'm not going to use it. But But I think it's really interesting, and I think it's really smart on Ford because, granted, I think a lot of things seem great in theory, but maybe not so much in practice. And if they have hard data that supports that this is a technology that people just don't use. They don't even put parallel parking on the driver's test anymore. You don't even have to do that to get your license. So clearly, I don't know, maybe there's just less parallel parking in general.
I think it's going to be interesting, too, to see if other automakers follow in Ford's footsteps. I mean, $2 billion is a lot of money. That's a huge savings. So I wonder if other automakers are going to do the same thing.
Certainly.
I guess we'll have to wait and see.
I bet you they're probably keeping track of all right, what are people using? What are they not using? And how are we going to change that for our next model so that we can make our, incentives a little better? Well, great. Thank you, everybody, for such a great discussion there. Moving on to our last topic of the day. Honda is no stranger to electric vehicles, having produced the EV Plus in the late 90s, an all-electric version of their subcompact Fit about a decade ago, and even more recently, the Clarity, which was better known for its plug-in hybrid variant. But this year, Honda is finally launching their first serious all-electric vehicle, the Prologue, and Kyle, he was the first to drive it. Before we go into anything about how it drives, we should talk about really the bones of this vehicle, which it was made by General Motors.
It sure was.
Well, with Honda's help, but this is on the Ultium platform. Which is a very familiar platform. The Blazer EV, the Equinox, the Silverado EV, all of their EVs are on this platform.
I haven't driven yet.
No, but you will. But still very important to mention that the bones of this are a General Motors vehicle.
Linked up with GM. So that was, that was exciting to get into it and feel, what this car was going to do with having that combination of Honda and GM going together. And I can say I was impressed. But no, I had a great time. They threw a great event, and the Prologue is a fun car to drive. Now, while we were out there, we were filming an entire road test, so I didn't get to spend as much time behind the wheel as I would have liked because we had other duties to get done. But in my time driving it, you get inside. They didn't do a full minimalistic EV like a lot of other manufacturers are doing with, you have the Volvo XC30, the little one.
EX30, with like just
only has the one tablet in the middle, and that's how you control absolutely everything in the vehicle for the most part. Again, you just heard about my deals with technology, so having some buttons and knobs and actual physical features to use the climate control and things like that in the car.
It feels familiar, right?
It feels familiar.
Like you get into it and you're like, all right, this is a Honda.
You're in a Honda. Yeah, exactly. You sit down in the vehicle and it's like, yep, I'm definitely in a Honda. And one thing that was surprising, I know it's wheelbase is just a little bit longer than the Passport, and it is shorter than the Passport. And you get in it, and to me, it felt bigger than a Passport.
Really?
Dave Ernest, one of our amazing videographers, he's about 6 feet tall, and he was getting in and out of this thing no problem at all. Had plenty of headroom when I was looking at him.
That's so interesting because when you look at pictures of it, it does not seem very big, and it kind of almost has like a sloping roof line that you're kind of like, oh.
I do love the exterior styling.
I do too, Kyle. I love the exterior design. It looks sharp. It looks great. They did a nice job.
It definitely was a head turn. I mean, granted, there were 20 of them driving around wine country we were at in Northern California, but it was turning heads left and right. And there's a new Honda badge.
Too. I was just going to say.
They put the new badge on it as well, which is
it's like a
really
new font that Honda has that they're putting on the back, and I believe they also have that same font on what's the concept? The Prelude, the Prelude concept. I think it's that same font, but it's a different design language than. Kyle's shocked that the Prelude's
I got
coming
other
up.
stuff to
It's
do.
a concept. But anyway, so the styling, the design language on the outside is different than other Hondas. Like it's not familiar.
It
but
definitely stands apart from the rest of them.
It's very like sleek looking, like. It's modern, but not like out there. And they have like some really interesting colors. Like they have like that blue color that's kind of like
that's
it's
the one
like,
we shot. So so stay tuned because that's the color that we shot for our piece for the road test. So that's what you'll be seeing on air. So to get in some of the nitty gritty stuff here, the 2-wheel drive model offers
It's a front-wheel drive.
Yeah, front-wheel drive. Front-wheel drive model offers just about 300 miles of range, where if you get the all-wheel drive, that'll drop down to about mid-270s.
It's not bad. That's not a terrible drop.
It's not terrible, and again, unfortunately, I didn't get to drive it enough to really see what the range would do versus what it says. But one of the things that Honda is trying to do, they're saying 100% zero emissions by 2040. So this is their first step in that direction. Yeah. And I'm excited to see how many of these sell, what people out there think about them, and what their next step is, what their next EV is going to be from here on out that's going to get them closer to that 100%.
Well, it's interesting because right now they're paired with General Motors building this vehicle. Can't imagine it's going to be like that forever. I mean, they're going to make their own. They're going to invest in their own technologies and stuff like that. But it's really interesting because this is built on the Altion platform. I talked about the Blazer a couple podcasts ago. So it's interesting to see this powertrain that's in it. It does have an 85 kilowatt hour battery pack, so it's not huge. No. Which is interesting because it's one you can get in the Blazer, but they have a larger one that is available. So it's great that they can get 300 miles out of this battery pack. And then it also has a 155 kilowatt peak charging rate. So it can charge on a 150 kilowatt charger, fast charger. It's not the fastest charging that's out there, but it's probably enough for what the people who are going to buy this Prologue, need it for.
Oh, I'm sure.
But kind of interesting, even like horsepower numbers, it looks like the front wheel drive has like 212 horsepower.
Yeah, 212 and then 288 on the all-wheel drive. And so also with the two-wheel drive, you get 236 pound-feet of torque. And on the all-wheel drive version, there's 333 pound-feet of torque, which when you put the sport mode on with the all-wheel drive, which was I was driving, the Elite model, that sucker can move.
Yeah,
it's there is obviously on the EVs they have the instant torque and you can get up and go pretty quickly, but there is a serious difference between driving in the regular driving mode versus when you hit that sport button. It definitely changes the car dramatically.
Wow. Okay. And pricing? Where are we at with pricing?
Pricing is the EX front-wheel drive model will start at just over $48,000, or just under $49,000. I'm sorry. And then they move up through the ranks. Once you get to the Elite trim, it's just under $60,000. So about a 12 grand difference between the lowest trim level and the highest.
Okay, so it does undercut like the Blazer EV, which I would look at that as kind of its competitor in a way.
Yeah, about size and all
I think
that.
It might be a little bit bigger than that, than the Prologue, as I think that the Prologue is supposed to share more with the Equinox, the smaller Equinox EV. But I think it'll be really interesting when we get the Prologue in for a little bit more of extended testing, as well as the Blazer EV, to kind of see how Honda differentiated itself. But also great that they're offering an all-electric vehicle for those who love Honda, but want to go all-electric. So great. Well, thanks. Thanks for sharing, Kyle.
Of course.
Now, we moved on to our rant or rave section here to the end of the podcast. Does anybody have a rant? Or does anybody have a rave?
I mean, I do have a rave about an event that I just went on, but I don't think I'm allowed to talk about that yet. So, to be continued.
Okay, yeah. Hold off on that.
Help anybody.
Hold off on that.
A rant or a rave? Yikes.
I mean,
merge better on the highways, please.
Oh, I can rant about people's driving habits all day. I don't think that's the objective here, though.
I mean, people are crazy. Yeah, merging.
My commute here every day is just rolling the dice of whether I get here.
You drive a lot of highway miles to get here, don't you?
Yeah, I got about a 90-mile round trip to work, and 42 miles in each direction is all highway. And around Baltimore, it's lots of fun.
I was just saying, somebody's gotta have a rave, something good. Alex, anything good?
Spring is on the way.
You gave me a cheeky.
I guess
daylight savings time. I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks away. I cannot wait.
It means I can play 9 holes of golf after work again.
Okay. Well, I was trying to think if I had anything.
No,
I really.
Nobody's upset with anything or like super happy about anything. Okay.
I think all is well in the
MotorWeek world.
Okay. Well, then
March 10th, daylight savings.
Okay. So daylight savings is coming, which means spring forward. Okay. So does that mean we gain an hour of sleep or lose an hour of sleep?
No, this is the gain. You lose it in the fall when you
Okay.
get back. So we get an extra hour of sleep, and that helps. As the road test producer, that makes me really happy with where the
Actually-
sun's going to be in the afternoon, which means I can shoot later into the
That
day.
could,
if I
see,
have to.
that could be
It's
your
really
rant right there,
beneficial.
Kyle.
It's
That's
really
your
That's a
rant.
rave, isn't
No, your rant is in the wintertime. It's a little bit
Oh,
difficult,
it's extremely difficult to
to
get these
produce
road
television.
tests. It's hard.
As
specifically
well as
for our
the
automotive.
feature reporting too. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
so
anything
I
we have to
welcome
shoot
it as
outside
well.
is
But
very
even like the
difficult.
sun is very different
Oh,
here
the
in the
sun-
winter
oh, yeah.
time.
It's
like
so much lower. All the angles are different. Our shooting locations have to change and we have to have solid deadlines at the end of the day where we can't shoot past 3:30, 4 o'clock because the sun's so low
and then
that it doesn't
the
do us
footage
any
doesn't
well.
match up either because
Exactly.
it's too dark, but we're too light.
Yep.
All right, I pulled one out of you.
You did,
Okay,
you did.
that was good. All right, everyone, thanks for listening to our podcast today. If you're wondering what time MotorWeek can be seen on your local public television station, go to our website, motorweek.org, click on the tab Watch MotorWeek, and then enter your zip code for days and times in your area. Or hop on over to our cable partner, mavtv.com, for their schedule. You can also stream MotorWeek episodes for free on your mobile device or streaming box by downloading the PBS app available at your device's app store or streaming channel library. So don't forget to download the PBS app. All of our individual road tests and feature segments are also available at youtube.com/MotorWeek. If you have a screen, you can watch MotorWeek. I want to thank our panelists today, Stephanie Hart, Kyle Scanlon, and Alex Kellum. I am the podcast producer, and thank you to our audio engineer, Austin Harris, for making us sound so good, and our podcast creator, Bob Mixter. And thank you for being a part of MotorWeek.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper and TireRack.com. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.